Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we do have Charles Bishop and we have Brian Wolford. With that being said, welcome to episode 633 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash with all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, as I said, but we having Brian that is doing a little pinch hitting today since we are in college baseball season. We're filming from our home studios in the Signal Live, the Case-Ways 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. I'm going to go to you, Charles, since you had that big grin on your face. You got to tell everybody why you are grinning and looking up like that. What's going on? What's in your world?
Yeah, it's almost baseball season for AD. I'm sitting here looking over my shoulder at the Central State Morehouse game, about 48 seconds left. And Central State.
Wow! Shots already.
Morehouse, 69-63. So,
69-63.
Yeah.
How much time left?
48.1 seconds.
Who got the ball?
Morehouse is actually at the line, but they just turned it over on the previous possession, and Central State was able to go in for an easy layup. So it brought the lead back out to 6.
Brian, what's on your mind? I heard you were score dipping a little bit ago.
Man, you got me hunting, trying to figure out where this game is. You know, man.
That's what the show will be about today. You know, we're going to get into some talk, but we're going to give you some updates. This close of the regular season is tournament for some people. We will crown some additional championships in this first news segment, but look forward to this throughout the rest of the show. We're going to chime in, as you all tend to do when you follow us, giving these updates. We're going to do a little bit more ourselves. So if we're turning and pivoting and looking, just play with us because we're fans as well. With that being said, Brian, what were you going to say?
Look, I was, I'm already poking my chest out because I'm not going to say I called that Savannah State upset over Miles.
You did.
But if you were listening on Sunday night, I was giving you a heads up that don't be surprised if Savannah State beats Miles. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I just don't know where I'm going tonight, though. You know, hold on. Let me go back. I also kind of thought North Carolina Central would beat Norfolk State. So, man, I'm like, that was a 2 for 2. That was a 2 for 2 hitter if you were paying attention to and FAMU covered. So, man, look, I was on a roll. I was hot.
Hold on. What's the third game? What's the parlay? Where's the parlay here?
Sadly, Charles, you can't get them Division II games. So I was stuck messing around with the rest of the SWAC and got burned. That's what happened.
Oh boy, I did.
The rest of the SWAC burned me. If I find D2 action, it's on. But right now, there's no D2 action out there. Sadly.
Well, let me get in on the action. That Norfolk State Howard game, women's basketball, is final. Norfolk State did win the game, going away 68-56. But hey, for a half, everybody was thinking twice. Howard was leading at the half in terms of up 28-25. And then that third quarter comes. Norfolk State hit them with an 18-11 run today and went up 43-39. And then they did the really fourth quarter. They just like put them out the misery. 25-17 was scoring for a final score of 68-56. So Norfolk State gets it done with a regular season, undefeated in regular season. And they will earn the number 1 seed in the tournament. So that
how many did Diamond Johnson go for today?
Johnson had 25, 8 rebounds and 6 assists. I'm glad you asked that. We need to make sure we get
most of that was in the second half. Most of that, I bet, was in the second half.
Yeah, you're certainly right. She did her part to close it out, as she had done. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Let me go back to you, Charles. What do you got? Give us an update.
Central State up 75-67, 11 and a half seconds left to go on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you can do. Charles.
Yeah, I was told
to baseball season, quick, fast, and hurry. The good thing in a couple of weeks, you do have the Morehouse Clark Atlanta baseball game going up, which I heard is pretty fiery, like a lot of rivalries. So you might want to turn your focus to that, as you said, in terms of AD Drew. That's tough.
Hey, I don't think anybody had Central State versus Savannah State meeting in the semifinals, and
to go to a championship. One of them is going to punch a ticket to championship.
Exactly.
You got the top 2 seeds out of that part of the bracket gone, Miles and now Morehouse. So Clark Atlanta, if they can find a way to stay away from these early shockers, they got to feel a little good in terms of what they might be able to get done. We'll just see. It is March Madness, so don't count your chickens before they hatch. Your Panthers out there. With that being said, Charles, you want to give us some updates on some news? Let's go continue to crown some of these champions that are around out there. Sooner Athletic Conference has 2 HBCUs that were represented. Go ahead and give us one of them.
Yeah, let's take a look at Sooner Athletic Conference as Langston gains the Sooner Athletic Conference women's basketball tournament title for the first time in their program history, as Langston broke out to an early lead in the first half and was able to hold on in the second half to claim the Sooner Athletic Conference women's basketball tournament championship, knocking off Mid-America Christian 64-54. That was at the CF Gales Fieldhouse in Langston, Oklahoma. So shout out to the Langston women for getting it done in the Sooner Athletic Conference, first time in program history.
Good stuff. Langston put 2 on the all-tournament first team there. That was Korea Kirksey and tournament MVP Jordan Brown got it done for the Langston Lady Lions as they crown a champion. They'll be going dancing in the NIA tournament in terms of what that looks like. So they did the dual. They had the regular season and the tournament. Charles, you got to find a score up there as you kind of.
We're getting close to chalk here. About 3.7 seconds left. Central State is at the free throw line here. It's bad when you got everybody back. So it's
unnecessary fouling happens. Somebody's trying to cover some points unnecessarily. I'm telling you, pay attention to that kind of stuff, people.
We got a final. Central State knocks off Morehouse 70-70.
Wow.
The host school.
Wow.
On spring break. Hey, 1, 2, 3 spring break. That's what we were talking about on Sunday. 1, 2, 3 spring break. There you go. Damn.
Ouch. Oh, shots fired.
Ouch. First from Charles, then from Brian. You professors are mean. Y'all the type of professors that give this really hard midterm examination as people go on their spring break, so they have a little anxiety before they can enjoy something. Boy, I don't know about y'all people. Brian, with that being said, give us an update on the other side for Langston with the men.
Yes, indeed. The Langston men claimed their 3rd consecutive Sooner Athletic Conference basketball tournament championship. This year, Langston, they were the host, but they were the 2 seed this year. Don't forget, Langston opened the season as the number 1 preseason team in NAIA polls. And so congratulations to the Langston Lions, and especially to Coach Chris Wright, who I think in the tournament, I'm not sure if it was the championship game or if it was in the game before, but he earned his 300th career win in the coaching. And of course, Coach had an outstanding run at Talladega before coming over to Langston. We're all familiar with with the best turnaround, I think, in NAIA, probably NCAA history.
I agree with that.
In what he did when he took a 1 or 2 win program and turned them into a 30-win season in team in just 1 year.
That's cool.
So it's the 3rd year that the Lions have won the conference tournament. In terms of the all-tournament team, Bryce Monroe was the tournament MVP. Amoro Ladd also made the SAC all-tournament team in the contest. Let me see. I can't peep the. I don't know if the final score was 7. No, let me see. I think it was 76-71 was the final score. And if I'm sorry. It was 65-62 over the top-seeded Nelson. So I just got to read the script, but it's right there. 65-62 over Nelson. So close games. I mean, a 5-point win in the semis, 3-point game in the championship game. And so now both the Langston men and women, they will wait to hear Thursday night. I guess is that tonight when the NAIA tournament is announced? I think that's tonight when they'll be announced, the national tournament field. So yeah, we may have that information live. We'll have to check in on the website. So there's some stuff that we can even get into a little bit later in the show when that stuff gets released.
No doubt. Great job. And we will get into that. I'm glad you brought that up in a reminder. Langston is hot. They've won 6 straight, including 3 in the tournament. They tied the regular season on the men's side, while the women won the regular season. As I told you, they did the double dip in terms of getting it done. But and unlike last year where they blew everybody away, they might be better suited for a tournament in terms of some of those close runs where you got to find a way to get a close game. Because you said even in the quarterfinals, they just won 71-68 over Central Christian. Then Mid-American Christian, as you talk about, they won 76-71 and 65-62. So they won going down the stretch, which bodes well as they get ready for tournament play. I'm interested to see also where the women are seating. They've dominated all year, much like you thought about the men last year. So Langston is interesting there. One more before we close out this first segment, naming champions. When we talk about NAIA, I should say, Florida Memorial crowned the 24-25 Sun Conference Tournament champions as they win going away 89-63 over SEU, Southeastern University. Florida Memorial has completed one of its season-long mission by winning the conference women's basketball tournament in a convincing 89-63 victory over the defending champions, Southeastern University, at the Florida Memorial Wellness Center. Much like Langston, they get it done at home. Florida Memorial currently boasts a 23-4 record as they prepare for the first round of the NAIA tournament. And unlike some of the other HBCUs that play in HBCU conferences, and sometimes people question their conference play, many people see the Sun Conference as one of the toughest out there for particular baseball and basketball, both men's and women's. So it'll be interesting to see where they're going to be ranked at 23-4 in terms of their season. But they're certainly get it done. Shout out to Kevin Marad. All thanks to God for an amazing journey we are on. He was quoted as saying, he also quoted as saying, "I'm so proud of my team's accomplishments. I have a phenomenal group of amazing young ladies with bright futures ahead of them," end quote. Langston Lion wasted no time delivering an early knockout punch, getting off to a 10-0 run, enjoyed a 22-4 edge in the end of the first quarter. Dominated. Yes, Brian.
Well, I was going to add, since we were talking about the women's side of the NAIA, as I'm looking at the site, the 16 host sites were announced. 2 HBCU campuses are part of the 16-team field for the women. You have Langston University hosting, as well as Xavier in New Orleans. So
I heard about Xavier.
very, very likely that Langston and Xavier, even though Langston won their tournament, Xavier, they were a 2 seed and lost in the semifinals. But I think usually when you're hosting a site, you're probably going to be seated there. So there's a possibility that Xavier and Langston will be the host school and the host site. So book those two into the tournament. And I would imagine, Doc, this is just me guessing here, Florida Memorial will probably travel to New Orleans because that's the closest. I'm looking at the map.
Oh,
New
wow.
Orleans is really the
we can get an HBCU matchup.
Okay.
Possibly. It'd be interesting. It might be very interesting that you could get
Then
that.
you got to imagine coming out of the HBCU AC that the HBCU winner there is probably going to be seated, at least one of them, because they get two coming in. So one of them is going to be, and that was Philander Smith. They won it on the women's side. Am I correct?
Yes, correct. They did win on the women's side. Philander Smith
so this is getting interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Charles. We got a little time before we take
some just hit me. I mean, Morehouse and Miles gets knocked out. Do either one get an invitation to the Black College Invitational Championship?
Oh, they should.
I think Morehouse should be up for one.
Got to get Miles in there.
Yeah, Miles got to go for sure.
They don't
and
get to
Morehouse could be the second one. I guess you are because the way they have it set up, no independents are involved in this. So it's the SIAC versus CIAA. So at this point, I think you do. The question is, though, Charles, according to Ace AD, he spoke that both the CIAA and SIAC is only going to get one champion, right?
Right.
So if Clark Atlanta wins it, then yes, I think you leave it open. Miles is one, and then I think you probably have a really good argument. Morehouse is the other, depending who falls off. But if Clark Atlanta loses, Morehouse may be out of luck.
Yeah.
Because I think then you're going to go from Miles and Clark Atlanta, you're going to push to go in that tournament. While the winner of the SIC, if it's not Clark Atlanta, goes on. So it's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like in terms of that. So great question, getting a little bit in that mix. And then the question becomes, who out of the CIAA are you looking to see to get that invite on the men's side? We can look at the women's side a little later on that. Let's take our first piece and come back on the other side and maybe discuss a little more about the HBCU Invitational in terms of who can be invited. And we'll get some score updates throughout the conference when we come back after our first break.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As we get into it, get back in a little bit of the discussion in terms of the HBCU Invitational. When you look at the CIAA on the men's, starting with that, We'll talk about the women in the second half of the show. So we'll stick here and then get into some scores and some more thoughts in terms of maybe some accolades, MEAC weekly announcements, honors, as well as the SWAC honors. We can talk a little bit about that. But Virginia State won it on the men's side. So they faced and defeated Bluefield State. There was a game that was 19-11, so they made it to the finals. But on the other side, you have Fayetteville State at 22-8, Claflin at 17-10. So you also have Lincoln, Pennsylvania at 18-12. Could talk about some of the head-to-head matchups. I think you lean toward one of them being Fayetteville State. They're willing to come down there. You get them to come into your tournament out of the CIAA. Then I think the argument becomes a Bluefield State 19-11, Lincoln, Pennsylvania 18-12, and a Claflin at 17-10. Just so you know, some people thought the Northern Division maybe was a little tougher, but Bluefield just went 6-4 in division. If you want to look at that, Lincoln 5-5, conference-wise 10-6, 11-5 respectively. You go in the Southern Division, Claflin was 8-2, right there behind Fayetteville State in terms of the division, which 11-5 overall. So Charles, I'm gonna ask you, if you're sitting at the table on the committee for the HBCU Invitational, who are you taking? Bluefield State, Lincoln, Pennsylvania, Fayetteville State.
Bluefield State did get to the championship game, and they did finish second in the standings right behind Virginia State. So, I mean, to me, they're the deserving team. I mean, I'm not going to, take the team under them in the standings. So I definitely go with Bluefield State.
And Fayetteville State?
Yeah.
Me too. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I like the way you think. Brian, are you in agreement or are you going in a different direction?
Well, I guess I'm in agreement. I'm reading what Lawrence is kind of sharing there about the recent regional rankings, where Fayetteville State is a 4 seed, which, if I'm not mistaken, the top 7 get in. If I'm not,
but is he talking about the 4 seed for the women because they won that side of it?
Well, he's saying the men. He's saying on the men's side, the recent regional rankings at Virginia State.
They should be in. So then you don't have
Fayetteville. It kind of leaves it to Bluefield State would be the team that's, if Fayetteville State gets in, Virginia State gets in, that would leave Bluefield State as the school that doesn't make the NCAA tournament, and that would open it up. I think that's a good story for them. So I think that's a great opportunity to
then that opens it up for, I think, a good point. But then it opens it up for Lincoln, Pennsylvania. Again, 18-12, 11-5 in conference, 5-5 in the division versus Claflin. 17-10, 11-5, and 8-2 in the conference.
Right.
Because they're taking 2. They're trying to get 2 in there. Woo-wee! So it gets a little more interesting. So it'll be fun. Let's get back into. Let me get some of these scores. North Carolina Central is over South Carolina State 59-46. Delaware State is losing to Maryland Eastern Shore 63-29. I was going to say this would be interesting because one of these teams would want to get away from Norfolk State, and I was looking at South Carolina State because they have both of them defeated each other, so they wins came against each other in conference play. But the second game, South Carolina State beat Delaware State by 21, so they would get the 7 seed. So I went back and said, all right, that's against Howard. Well, they got their head busted against Howard. So both of the 7 and 8 seeds, it'll be short-lived in the tournament. I was like, maybe somebody got to have an upset. I don't see that going. So the rest of it is open. Maybe between Morgan State and Coppin State, 56-54. Interesting to see how that goes down in terms of how things continue to run. Coppin State is fighting. If they win, they'll earn the 3 seed. For them, that's good because then you stay away from Norfolk State until you can get to a championship game and take a chance. Hey, that's how you get in the tournament. You got to look at your options, especially when the team is as hot as Norfolk State. You want to stay away from them as long as you can, so you can at least say, "Hey, we made a deep run in the tournament."
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I tried to run into that buzzsaw early, so yeah.
Yeah, early exit is what it is. Let's go to the SWAC and give you some updates there. You have Jackson State and Arkansas Pine Bluff, surprising everybody, tied at 29. We'll see how long that lasts. You have Alcorn State in a rivalry against Mississippi Valley State, and a good one, 36-30. It is in Valley, so that home court is always interesting, particularly for a rival. There's 6:47 left in the third in terms of that matchup. Southern continues to do what they are doing. They're up at half by 8. On the road, they're leading Alabama State 29-21. That Alabama A&M Grambling game doesn't start to 6:30, so we got a little more time for that. It'll be fascinating. Also, while I said Tennessee State women had a nice close of the season, they had their early exit to the tournament. It wasn't the same kind of flower that happened yesterday, so I wanted to give that update in terms of the OVC for Tennessee State. It'll be interesting going down the stretch what North Carolina A&T does tomorrow as they try to close out on a regular season championship. You got a bit of a break. We talked a little bit on Tuesday. They lost one of the games last week, but the other team, Drexel behind them, lost as well. So they still have a 1-game lead in the CAA, Coastal Athletic Association, as I like to say, formerly known as the Colonial, which still blows my mind that 2 HBCUs decided to join the conference called the Colonial, particularly in the current environment we're in. That being said, let me quit pounding on them in that perspective. Charles, you want to give some MEAC love in terms of women's basketball honors?
Let me see. Can I get it pulled up real quick here? MEAC basketball honors. Let's take a look at that. As I lost my place.com back to me, I'll pull it right back.
Yeah, it's on your feet a little bit there. Brian, you want to
I'm maneuvering differently today.
I
got you. All right, the MEAC men's honors, starting with Coppin State's Toby Nadozie, who was the MEAC Player of the Week. Howard freshman Blake Harper, Rookie of the Week. By the way, great article that I would strongly encourage everybody to read by Sports Illustrated regarding Blake Harper, considered, as they call it, the most tampered with college basketball player in America. And South Carolina State's Omar Krosky was the defensive player of the week. That article, by the way, Doc SI, I mean, that's a whole show that you could do, or a good segment. I mean, that is a great read. It's about a 10-15 minute read, depending upon how fast or slow you read, but it's worth it. I got halfway through and I had to pause. Anyway, back to the MEAC honors. Nadozie, who's a 6'3" junior guard, had a team high 25 points with 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals. And the Eagles, he led the Eagles past the Bison 72-61. Against Dell State, he had a career high 29 points with 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. Shot 72% from the field. That's 13 of 18. Incredible numbers. For Harper, who, now interesting, Harper's listed here as 6'5". The article I just read said he was 6'8", so I don't know how tall he is. But anyway, he's a big wing. He averaged 21 points, 6 boards, 3.5 assists. Unfortunately, it was an 0-2 week for the Bison. Harper had 19 points against Coppin on 7 of 8 at the free throw line. He had 23 and 8 boards against Central. Krosky, who's a 6'6" grad student, a guard, led the Bulldogs to a 2-0 week with wins over Maryland Eastern Shore and a big win over Norfolk State. He had a double-double of 20 and 12 with 2 steals and 2 assists versus Maryland Eastern Shore. Added 4 steals and 11 points over Norfolk State. Interesting game, interesting scenarios happening in the MEAC men between Norfolk State and South Carolina State, trying to see, they were talking about it could come down to a coin toss based on the margin of victory. Nasty, right? A coin toss to determine who's the number 1 seed going into the tournament.
They tie, they beat each other, same point of margin, so it gets to the point where you just got to flip the old coin.
Yeah.
Amazing. We've seen that this season before in another conference on the women's side. I won't name it, but that's how it is. Charles, we're going to take the next break and come back on the other side and let you talk about the MEAC women in terms of superlatives. We'll see if we can get some superlatives for the SWAC as well as we get into our next segment. We'll give some scoring updates and see what's going around in that part of the world. With that, stick with us. We'll be right back after this second break.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Press the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let me give some of these updates in terms of these scores, and then we'll go back with the superlatives. We'll get the SWAC, weekly men's basketball, and then we'll go back and give the women for SWAC and let Brian give the women for the MEAC. With that being said, as we get into it, we have Jackson State is up now over Arkansas Pine Bluff. I told you short-lived. 44-39 with 5:50 in the third left. We have Valley. It's tied at 44, but then Valley is taking a lead, 42-44 with 4:20 left in the third. So that looks close so far in that matchup. Southern continues to stretch out the lead and start to pound, if you would, a little bit. Alabama State 35-23. That's 66 minutes and 11 seconds left in the third quarter. So fascinating. Let's give you the MEAC updates so you see what's the world turns on that side. Central continues to dominate South Carolina State 61-48. Still have a close one there with Morgan State over Coppin State 59-54. Again, that's going to be interesting in terms of the standing with Coppin State having an 8-5, Maryland Shore 7-6 lead for that third seed. We'll see what that means. And Maryland Eastern Shore is leading Delaware State 69-30. So it looks like they're going to get that victory. So the Morgan State, Coppin State could have seeding implications in terms of that close match going down the stretch. So fascinating to see what that looks like. Charles, let's go to you. With the women's SWAC. Let's go to you in terms of, the women's SWAC.
We're going to go women on the SWAC?
Let's go men. Let's go men SWAC.
Let me flip it back. Men
that's what I told you. I'm about to feel because I can't make up my mind.
Yeah, give me a quick sec. I'm going to pull
one of those days in terms of what it looks like out there for myself.
Let's take a look at it as a Southwestern Athletic Conference is named Bethune-Cookman's Trey Thomas, Jackson State's Shannon Grant, and Deshaun Ruffin. along with Southern's Michael Jacobs as their SWAC men's basketball players of the week for their impressive performances. Let's take a look at them. Trey Thomas from Bethune-Cookman, again, offensively, in a pair of wins for Bethune-Cookman over number one seeded Southern and Grambling. He totaled 47 points, Doc, on 16 of 30 shooting with 4 threes, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals and 5 assists in those 2 games last week in the wins over Southern and Grambling. The impact players of the week. Shannon Grant for Jackson State helped Jackson State win a pair of games. He averaged 16.5 points and 8.5 rebounds in the 2 games. He also had 1.5 blocks in those 2 games for Jackson State in those wins. The co-newcomers of the week, Deshaun Ruffin for Jackson State, 14.5 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists in a pair of wins last week for Jackson State. He finished the week shooting 40.7% from the floor, as well as 37.5% from beyond the arc. He was also 5 of 5 on the free throw line. And then lastly, Michael Jacobs from Southern. He was also co-newcomer of the week. He contributed for the Southern Jaguars as he helped SU to a key 73-70 win over FAMU, tallying 12 points while ranking second on the team in total points scored during the game. So those are your SWAC men's players of the week.
Good stuff there. I appreciate that update. With that being said, let me go back and do it for the women. We talked about the HBCU invitation. Obviously, Fayetteville State went back-to-back in their championship. 9 straight games they have won in the season, so they certainly are going to the NCAA tournament. But these are the teams that you can look at in terms of potentially getting an invite that have some stellar records if they don't get into the tournaments. So it'll be interesting to see where they're ranked in the region for the women. But Virginia State is 23-6. You would think they would have a chance to be ranked in the region. But if not, you got to believe that they're a lock for the CIAA with that type of record. Right behind them, though, is Virginia Union at 21-7. Virginia State was 14-2 in conference, while Virginia Union was 13-3. Virginia State was 9-1, while Virginia Union was 8-2. Closest team, but behind them has a losing record in terms of overall, so you can't see anything there. Bowie State, 19-12, not bad, but they were 11-5 in conference, but just 6-4 in the division. So they're interesting to see in terms of Virginia State. If they don't get the bid to the tournament, we'll skip by then. So that means the other teams you're looking at, a Virginia Union, getting that second bid to the HBCU invitation, or Bowie State if Virginia State slides in. Speaking with you, Charles, any thoughts in terms of HBCU invitation with those type of teams out of CIAA? You're talking about being able to have some excitement if you can get Virginia State in that tournament if they don't qualify for the NCAA.
Absolutely.
Union is not bad.
Yeah, not at all. But I think, just kudos and shout outs to having another tournament to where we can feature some of these HBCU teams. Shout out to those guys. They were on the Breakfast Club this morning. Big ups to the Breakfast Club for highlighting the HBCU invitational tournament. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, especially, those teams that don't get to the NCAAs or whatever the case might be, you still have a postseason tournament for them to play. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, great points you're making there. Glad to see. Kudos to the Breakfast Club that they put it on. The other thing that's fascinating about that is I put in for media credentials. I plan to be able to get up there. I'm going to be in that area for the CSRI. I'm planning to see if I can get over to the tournament before I get back home that weekend. See if I can give y'all some insights from that Friday and Saturday as things go on. With that being said, let's get back in a little bit more talk on the other side. We do have that Norfolk State Howard game. It started. It's early on in the first half, 16:33 left. Norfolk State has jumped out to an 8-2 lead in that matchup. The Central game obviously is delayed based on how long the women's game went, as well as Maryland, Eastern Shore, and Delaware State. So fascinating, kind of see what's going on there, what's in the mix. We'll get some more talk on that as things continue to move out. You have North Carolina A&T playing Hofstra in their tournament in terms of the Coastal, as that's a Friday game. So we'll see if they can have any upsets of what that looks like moving forward to give you some updates as well. We're talking about OVC Matchup tonight featuring Tennessee State. It was an automatic seeding, finishing third in terms of the quarterfinals. They take on Lindenwood. That is a 16-15 Tennessee State team overall, 12-8 in OVC. And you have Lindenwood at 16-16 overall and 10-10 in OVC. So not so far apart in the record. Tennessee State got the last matchup there. It's going to be interesting to see, can Tennessee State get this victory and find a way maybe to go on a little bit of run in the tournament. So I'm interested to see what that looks like as we get into it. In terms of the SWAC, you do have that Jackson State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff where things close out, Alcorn State, Mississippi Valley, and Alabama State Southern, Alabama A&M, and Grambling. People forget at the end of the season, while all season long we had the women's showcase, it changes this last week, which traditionally you would have teams play their Thursdays and Saturdays as they prep and get ready for the tournament and give them a couple extra days. So they move the Monday game, if you would, to Thursday anyway. So now we have a full ledger of Thursday games, traditionally what you see this week. So let's get a little bit of talk and get your thoughts on that. We'll save the SWAC highlights, if you would, and the MEAC for the women. We'll say that in the last segment. Any thoughts in terms of going down the stretch, some of these games that are set to be played today for these teams? They have 2 games left in their season. Charles?
Are you talking about SWAC or MEAC?
I'm talking about SWAC. For the MEAC, it's the last game today. So I covered those scores. And the SWAC have 2 for the teams that play today. So you can go either direction, SWAC or MEAC. What are your interests in some of these games that are being played today?
Well, I think obviously Saturday, when you take a look at the rivalry game, obviously with Texas Southern and Prairie View, I have an interest in that in terms of, just what sort of vibes are these teams going to take going into the tournament? I think that's going to be huge to kind of take a look at that. Especially, teams where I don't quite know who they are or what they're doing. A team like Alabama A&M, to me, you got Alabama A&M and you got, they got the Louisiana schools this weekend. So, I'm, just curious to see, where they are. Can you read how a team is going over the last 3-4 games going into the tournament? Whether they're flatlining, whether they're, trending upward. Jackson State is kind of an interesting team, because they look the part on some nights and sometimes they don't. So it's like, what team are you going to get going into the tournament? I'm looking at that tonight with Alcorn. Alcorn's women. You could take a look at Alcorn's women. They've knocked off giants within the conference, and now they're struggling with Mississippi Valley tonight. So it's just trying to get a read on teams going into the tournament.
Yeah, it's always the thing, because some people like the idea, Brian is one of them, to set up tournaments similar, like maybe what you see with OVC, where you're rewarded for your regular season to go deep in the tournament. If you like Carlos, he likes to see that based on the fact that you want to send your best team, and he sees it as the regular season champion, the best team. And I always say I don't have a problem with the number 1 seed getting the tournament. I don't like the argument saying that's your best team, because oftentimes you have injuries, you have teams, as you just alluded to, who's playing really well versus who over the mile got it done, and credit to them for getting it done. If you want to reward that, I have no problem. I stay away from the argument in terms of who's playing the best basketball, because it could be different over the last part of the season. Brian, these matchups, your thoughts on that, or just a comment in terms of you sticking with the idea of the tournament seeding, which I do like the rewarding, just the wording and why sometimes gives me pause.
I got what you're saying, Doc. I think what's fascinating in these final 2 games on the men's side, I'm thinking about Southern here from the standpoint of Southern's already locked up the regular season.
Right.
Correct? They've already got the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we call a flat spot for them. It's real similar to what the number 1 team in the nation had to deal with when they traveled to Texas A&M, right? Where you just won your conference, you go on the road. Well, Southern's at home, but still, it's a flat spot. So, and the only team, look, Southern's lost 2 games by 2 points. One of those games was to Alabama State. Big game tonight. Like Alabama State, Southern is a 5.5 point favorite. I'm not buying it. I'm taking those 5.5. I'm on Alabama State big time tonight because they're trying to stay out of that 6th spot.
Right.
And if they lose this game, even though they have the tiebreaker over Florida A&M, you don't want to leave the door open. If you lose this game and then mess around and lose on Saturday, you potentially could drop to the 7th spot, right? And now you got to play an extra day. So for Alabama State, it's a lot on the line. I think the highest they could get is maybe 4, because right now they're 5. Who's Texas Southern have on Saturday? Because that's the last.
Prairie.
Okay, so you got
Not really. It's on the road. I can't see it, but hey, maybe a half.
Right. Well, so you need to. Alabama State's in a tough spot. They got to win these games.
They got
Southern had. I mean, look, coming out of Florida, where you had a 1-point loss and a 3-point win. I'm not saying Southern is not the dominant team that they were at the beginning in January, but there is a little bit of chink in the armor, and it's going to be interesting. That's all I'm going to say.
I want to ask a question when we get on the other side because I'm curious.
Good stuff. Let's hold that. We'll take our last break and we'll let Charles ask his question because he is curious. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
When you're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics, there's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. So we have Charles Bishop and Brian Fulford, the professors, Professor Bishop, Professor Fulford, and back at work. Charles, you teased this a little bit before we went to first break. What is the question you wanted to ask?
Well, I mean, I'll start with the women and then the men, but who's the one team nobody wants to see in the SWAC tournament?
Brian.
I'm going to say Florida A&M. I'm in the women's side, and I say that because, hold on, where's my notebook? I had a notebook. I talked about this last night. They've lost 6 of the last 7 games, and they've lost those 6 games. 5 of those 6 losses have been 4 points or less. They've had the number 1 team, Southern, had them, for 39 minutes and I'm trying to do math here, 30 seconds they had Southern beat 39-30. In 39 minutes, they had Jackson State beat. They lost to Alabama A&M by 4 points. And the first time, I forgot it. But both have been single-digit losses to Alabama A&M. So I say all that with the thought that that team is the team that if they, here's the big capital I, capital if, right? But that's what happens in these tournaments. All of a sudden, a light bulb goes off because the thing that plagues Florida A&M right now is fixable. It's not effort. It's not production. It's being able to finish, preventing, not fouling, not turning the ball over. Those are fixable errors, fixable things, I think. And so that's the team that I would look at and say, I wouldn't want to have to face them in this kind of tournament environment.
I would say on the other side, I like Ryan's answer in terms of a lower seed, one to watch out that gets hot, that certainly showed you can play. The team that I would watch out for, you can't say you're gonna watch out for Southern. They're the lead dogs. They lead. What kind of who Southern? I mean, I know you want to talk about Southern, but my goodness, they deserve all that. They're getting it done. They win the regular season championship. What should be so? The expectations is Southern's gonna cut down the nets. He said the wild card. What part of wild card is Southern? I would say on the other side for a higher seed, the wild card, I would say Alabama A&M Bulldogs. They're hot. Yeah, I think they have quietly kind of went under the radar, deservedly so, because of what Southern has done, particular way they chased down Texas Southern, and people are kind of looking at the fact that Texas Southern has went in the wrong direction, and then you have Jackson State right on the outside. Now, the point that I know Charles is going to make, the question that you want to be curious about Texas Southern is, do they get the point guard back and healthy? Then all of a sudden you get back to the Texas Southern team that started the season off undefeated for the first 10 plus games or whatever. So I agree with you there, but I'm talking about without that notification. But the outside would be Texas Southern. But I would say at the top, Alabama A&M. At the bottom, I like FAMU in terms of what you just said. With the team expected to get it done, because I want to show some Southern some love, is Southern. With that being said, we do have final scores out of the MEAC. Let me get those final scores. Norfolk State over Howard, 68-56 we talked about. But you have Central that went final in their last game playing over South Carolina State, 68-63. Morgan State gets it done over Coppin State, 59-54. And Maryland's Eastern Shore over Delaware State, 69-35. So it's going to be interesting because you're going to have Coppin State and Maryland Eastern Shore tied with their record, so you'll get into those tiebreaker scenarios in terms of how things go out. Delaware State and South Carolina State are tied, but Delaware State will slide up to the 7th seed because of the point differential based on my deduction of the points if you do the analysis. Before we get into this question, but based on the HBCU Invitational Tournament, I wanted to do our final accolades with the women. So I'm going to go to you, Brian, first with the MEAC. Let's do the MEAC women's basketball honors. And then, Charles, you can do the SWAC women's basketball honors.
All right.
Go ahead, Brian.
Over on the women's side in the MEAC, Norfolk State guard Diamond Johnson was named the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Player and Defensive Player of the Week, while Howard guard Sanaya King earned Rookie of the Week honors. Johnson, who's a 5'5" grad student from Philadelphia, PA, led the Lady Spartans, to a 2-0 record, averaged 20.5 points, 6 point rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 5 steals. She delivered the standout performance in the victory over South Carolina State, recording 19 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 7 steals. She fills up the stat line, my goodness. And she also surpassed the 2,000 career point mark in her collegiate career. I think I also saw a stat that she's like the only player in Division I with like 2,000. Hold on, I have to go to somewhere Norfolk State side, but it's like 2,000 points, certain number of rebounds, certain number of assists, and steals. It's like, she's the only player in Division I basketball getting that kind of run. And I think, just a little commentary note, I think she ought to definitely be at least a third team All-American.
All-American, yeah.
At least third team. I don't know if they go 4 or if they go 3. She's got to be top 3. One of the top 15 players in the nation, hands down. Got to be. Yep. For Miss King, it's a freshman from Washington, D.C. She recorded 17 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 rebounds in the win over Coppin State. In the week, she averaged 10 points, 1.5 boards, 3.5 assists as the Bison went 2-0 last week. Unfortunately, they did lose today to Norfolk State and Diamond Johnson. So there's that.
Charles, go ahead and do it for the SWAC women. Give those updates.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. SWAC named Jackson State's Leah Dilworth, Grambling State's Kaya Wormsley, and Lydia Freeman, along with Bethune-Cookman's Asian Nicholson as their SWAC Women's Basketball Players of the Week. We take a look at the Player of the Week. Leah Dilworth scored a team-high 30 points during Jackson State's home game versus Prairie View. She followed that with a 13-point performance versus Texas Southern while averaging 21.5 points per game for the week. Impact Player of the Week was Kyle Wormsley, led the charge in Grambling's 55-52 contest over Florida A&M, displaying her scoring ability with a game-high 22 points. She shot 8 of 16 from the field, including 2 3-pointers, and was flawless from the free throw line, making all 4 of her attempts. The co-newcomer of the week was Lydia Freeman. She delivered a double-double, scoring 21 points on an efficient 9 of 11 shooting while securing 12 rebounds, including 5 on the offensive glass during Grambling's game versus Bethune-Cookman. She was also perfect from the free throw line, converting all 3 of her attempts. And also, the new co-newcomer of the week was Asian Nicholson. She registered back-to-back double-doubles for Bethune-Cookman last week in league games versus Grambling and Southern. She also contributed 28 points, 33 rebounds, 3 block shots, a partridge and a pear tree, respectively, while shooting 41.7% from the field. So, big week for Asian Nicholson.
Yes, good stuff, good stuff. Let me. This is the part where I love about the tournament. I get nerdy out in terms of seeding and how that plays out. The bottom 6 teams in the MEAC had tie records. So you have Coppin State and Maryland Shore at 8-6, 8-6. Then you have Morgan State and Central at 6-8, and then you have South Carolina State and Delaware State at 1-13. I told you about the Delaware State and South Carolina State in terms of seeding. But I also mentioned who would stay out of that 2 seed, right? The 4 seed, because you want to stay away from Norfolk State as long as possible. See if somebody, comes up with some food poisoning. I don't want to say injury. I don't want to wish that on anyone, but food poisoning, right? Maryland Eastern Shore and Coppin State, they're going to go down to the point differential.
Oh, my goodness.
First game, the first game, Coppin State won by 5. The last game we just talked about, right? Maryland Eastern Shore wins by 6. So Maryland Eastern Shore will slide and get the 3 seeding based on my understanding of these rules, point differential, the time record, which is the difference of being able to stay away from Norfolk State as long as possible. We'll see if it means something. And same thing with Morgan State, North Carolina Central. Central will slide to the 5 slot, even though they're tied with Morgan State because they beat Morgan State down both times. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like.
So Doc, you're telling me the team that finished the regular season above 500 with 17-13 record will finish below the team that finished under 500, all
Correct.
because of 1 point.
Correct.
Again, to speak AD Drew, this phrase, #MEACish. That's all I'm going to say.
But it also points out when people are in the stands, and I've heard this, sometimes I'm guilty of it myself. You hear these coaches and you hear people talking about, why are they calling the timeout? Because they want to stop somebody from scoring, or they want to get that point, because they never know at the end of the season how much value is that 1 point in terms of a victory, in depending on where you're going to be seated in the tournament.
I was asking that on air last week. Now I know.
If you get a contract extension or not. Go ahead, Charles.
No, I was asking that same question on air last week. Now I know. Makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah, that's where it is. Fascinating when you talk about, again, just to close kind of things out on this HBCU Classic. It'll be interesting when you look at the SIC on the women's side. We talked about the men's side in terms of looking at Miles and Morehouse. On the women's side, it'll be interesting how things go out. Obviously, Clark Atlanta is doing what they need to do. Finished at 23-6. They're rolling. And then on the other side, you have Miles, 20-6 in that. So you're looking at teams such, unless something happens in this tournament, they're kind of rolling. But you're also looking at Tuskegee, 19-9 overall in terms of the team, 18-10 from an Allen. Even Edward Waters at 18-9. Some teams to keep your eyes on, as well as Lane at 18-10 overall for teams that are in the mix based on how things shape out in the tournament, whether they can get that SIAC tournament. But the fact that you still have something that you're chasing and aligning yourself off for postseason participation beyond is always fascinating and interesting. Let's give some final scores or updates if we go it on the men's side of things are starting to go down. Still early in that game, Norfolk State and Howard right now. Interesting in terms of the scoring in that matchup there. You have Norfolk State up over Howard. It's a close one now, 19-18, 6-4, 6:44 left. That becomes a very intriguing game as Norfolk State has hit a bit of the skids. Howard is trying to get themselves ready for the tournament as they kind of been on the down streak as well. So this game is fascinating on both sides, particularly with Norfolk State trying to get that elusive regular season championship. We'll see what that means. They have got to the 20-win mark, but fascinating to see. But then you have the South Carolina State, North Carolina Central, which is a classic matchup from that first one they went in overtime. So this will be interesting to see what that looks like when you talk about on that side of things for games to watch over there. Obviously, you have the Morgan State and Coppin, Baltimore, Maryland rivalry game, if you would. So intrigue on that side in terms of the SWAC. We're still seeing what's going on, closing out some of those games as we wait on the women. Remember, you have the Tennessee State game coming up late as they get in the OVC tournament. We talked about North Carolina A&T, Hampton going into it. Charles, any final thoughts from you before I close out with some of these final scores and give it a show?
Yeah, I mean, you about to close out with final scores was just catching my eye. Valley on top of Alcorn by 10. So, just I can't feel, the more I know, the less I know.
Yeah, especially this time of the year. It's madness, and that's why it's so exciting for Brian because he's trying to find out the little thing so he can give some advice and also do his thing on the betting side. But it's also why people like me stay away from it because I'm just like, no, you're not getting me in this madness. Brian, any final thoughts from you?
Charles, that was a women's matchup, right?
Right.
Unbelievable. So Valley could somehow unbelievable. Valley, if they find themselves in the 10, that'd be wow, unbelievable. It's going to shut me up. I won't be able to say anything next year when everybody gets in. So I'm just going to have to shut up. I won't get a chance to say anything. But I tell you, I am really looking forward. First off, I'm looking forward to heading to Daytona Beach on Saturday. Big time matchup between FAMU and Bethune. But I'll tell you, Southern Alabama A&M. Please, Alabama A&M, don't mess this up tonight. Don't mess this up against Grambling, the ladies. Coach Thornton getting a lot of love. Win this game so that we can get basically a game between Southern and Alabama A&M, I think would be for the title, right? On Saturday. That is going to be an outstanding game. I think it will be the final validation for Coach Thornton from critics. And I say that because I have been one of them. I'm gonna confess. I'm confessing right here. I've been one of them. I haven't always been drinking the tea like everybody else, but I think what I've seen this season is a team that is really locked in, and I'm looking forward to seeing this game. I think Southern Alabama A&M is probably the best game on the schedule, men or women. I think it has the game that has the most implications.
Hey, now real quick, did we answer on the men's side? Who's the one team you don't want to see?
No, we didn't. Go ahead.
We didn't. On the men's side, man. I'm trying to be fair here and not go chalk here. Well, because I feel like, Charles, you're trying to bait me into telling you. I feel like that's what you want me to say. You want me to tell you FAMU. But while let me see what happens against Bethune, because I'll be honest, I know Bethune is not playing with a full roster. Here's what I'll say. The winner of Saturday's FAM Bethune game, that is the team that you will not want to see, because I'll tell you, if Bethune, with where they're at on a roster depth level, they've already beat Southern. They're let me look at the standings. Are they hot? Are they on a bit of a streak right now?
Yeah, they're hot. They're sitting at number 3.
Yeah, 4 in a row. And they're doing it with, they don't have a full 10. So let me just say, they're playing with like 6-7 guys. If they beat FAM, pay attention. Pay attention to Bethune in the tournament. That's all I'm gonna say. I know I should be looking at Jackson State. I know.
Do you really want to see Texas Southern in the tournament?
Yeah, I was going to say, is it even fair to say Texas Southern? That's a given.
I don't know if this is the Texas Southern that.
No, it's not.
I understand. I know it's the Texas.
We had that 8 seed Texas Southern team that was even further outside of anybody's mind. And that's the team that was like, all right.
But how would you compare? Wouldn't you compare that team being a little bit better than this team, though?
Oh, no doubt. That team was similar to what we talked about with Texas Southern women this year. It was a team that got a player hurt instead of the middle of the season, latter part of the season. It was early on the season. And they struggled, and he came back healthy late. And they had their team together in a quintessential point guard that really lives for the tournament. And he put it on his shoulder. So you're right. It is different. No doubt about that. But you just never know. Jones has that magic. Since he's joined Texas Southern University as head coach and went to the tournament, he's never not played in the championship game.
That's the team that look. Texas Southern is the team that walks into the tournament with their chest like this. They walk in like every.
Y'all want to play some basketball?
Right, exactly. Like welcome to the Texas Southern Invitational.
I'm very happy to be here. Yes, that is Texas Southern. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That Norfolk State Howard game, I'm watching it live while y'all talking, so you see me squeeze my eyes. It's 25-21. Norfolk State leading on the road with 3:55 left in first half. Give me some of these final updates on the women's side of the SWAC. You have Grambling is up on Alabama A&M, 28-22, 5:40 left in the second. You have Jackson State over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 66-63. You have Valley at home over Alcorn, 64-59. So they put it down a little bit. It was 10 at one point, but it is only 2:38 left, plenty of time, but going down the stretch. And you have Southern just giving the business to Alabama State. It's 59-32. And at 3:33 left in the fourth. And somebody want to say, keep your eyes on Southern. Right. You want to stay away from Southern, like Norfolk State.
We want to keep your eyes on them all the way to the other side of the room.
Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, come from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, as well as Brian Fulford. Again, we want to thank you for listening for Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We will start to prepare ourselves to get to the SWAC. I'll be in there on Wednesday, so we'll see about doing a show there live on Thursday. We'll do one certainly before we leave and give you some updates. Follow me Dr. Kenyatta Cavil is DrKenyattaCavil. That's Facebook and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube, as you know. As we get out of here, make sure you tune in. ESPN Plus, if you would. Check out SIEC. Get your updates. Give them some support. Good games going on there. You can get your upset there too. As you prepare, check out Tennessee State this evening. Make sure you give a look for your HBCUs as the season starts to close out. You have all these games between YouTube. You have some of these games on ESPN Plus for the MEAC. So you can find out a team, the score that's close, that's entertaining for you. Turn it on. Give some support. With that being said, dream big. Continue to move forward. We'll talk with you soon. Charles.
Of course.
Brian.
Lecture.
Dismiss.